Welcome back everyone, I'm here and I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got some posts from our Best of Redditor updates, and trust me, this one is something else. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same in the comments down below. And without much further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected from our Best of Redditor updates. OP is you not that into, and their tagline is, Dad sent me, 15F, to boarding school at a young age. Now he's upset that I don't like to spend more time with his family during the summers, threatening not to send me back to my school this fall. I want to go back. Okay, so I've been attending boarding school since I was 10. I started the 5th grade at my boarding school. The reason why I started going so early is that my dad remarried. My mother killed herself when I was a baby, to my stepmom when I was 9. When she got pregnant with my brother, she insisted I be sent to boarding school so that they could start afresh. I use quotes because I used to hear them talking about it when I still lived there. I actually heard the discussions they'd have at night about it when they thought I was sleeping. She said a lot of hurtful things then, about me being potentially like my mother and potentially being a bad influence on their future children. But I guess she convinced him because he gave in, and they sent me away. So I went to boarding school. They had my brother and then my sister, and I only see them in the summers, and some holidays. In fact, a lot of holidays I spend with my friends' families, which my father has always signed off on. This especially confuses me considering his change of heart this summer. I mean, I've spent the last 4 Thanksgiving's holidays in other people's houses without comment. At first I was extremely depressed. I was really attached to my father as a kid, and it took me a long time to deal with being sent away, especially when my siblings were born. I felt a lot of betrayal and resentment. But then, I grew to deal with it. What really helped, and still helps, is that I have a wonderful group of friends at school, and the adults there are really supportive. My closest 2 friends have been there since I've been there. I feel like they're my family. Also, a lot of the kids I go to school with deal with what I'm dealing with in some form or the other, and this has given me a lot of perspective. Additionally, and I am really grateful for this and understand that in a lot of ways I've been given an amazing opportunity and have nothing to complain about in this respect, I go to a really nice school. I love the grounds, I love my classes, I love the extracurriculars, I love my teachers, and I love my friends. The picture people paint of boarding school isn't the one that I experience. It's pretty easy for me to say that I prefer being at school 100 times more than I prefer being at my father and stepmom's home. When I'm in their home, I feel like an outsider. They do their thing and I do mine. It's especially awful though, because I still get the sense that my stepmother doesn't want me around when I'm there. She barely acknowledges me, and I know she influences my brother and sister not to interact with me. I know because I took them to a theme park 2 weeks back, and they told me this after a full day of having fun with each other. So, and as much as I appreciate that I get to have the experiences I do at school, I can't seem to distance myself from my distaste of my father and my stepmom. So in order to avoid being disrespectful or coming off as rude, I just try to minimize the time I spend with them when I'm in their home for the summer. I don't have any friends here, so this means I go on hikes, go on runs, go to the movies, whatever I can to just be active or out and about without getting into trouble. Which brings me to the problem. My father kind of blindsided me yesterday. He sat down with me while I was eating breakfast, which never happens, before going on a hike, and he told me he's concerned that I haven't wanted to spend time with the family. I was confused because I haven't ever perceived this need from him, nor any space for it. He works all year round and all day. My stepmother is always ferrying my brother and my sister to something or off with her friends. I just didn't even think that they wanted that. He then said that he wants to keep me here for my final 2 years of high school and enroll me in the nearby private school so that I can be with the family. And I just panicked. I get stellar grades, and I'm doing well at school. Every report he's gotten has been good. I expressed this to him, but I was so distraught at the idea of not going back that he insisted my distress was an indication of how unattached from the family I was. I know I could have handled it better, but I blew up at him after he said this. I told him that he was the reason I wasn't attached to family, and that removing me from school would only remove me from the one place I had any real family. This really made him angry, and he left saying he was resolved to remove me. I don't know what to do. How can I convince him to let me go back? I feel like I'm a kid again. It's the same feeling all over again, and I'm so angry. Okay, so let me just sit with this for a second. This girl's mother passed away when she was a baby. Her dad remarried, and the moment that new baby came along, she was shipped off to boarding school at 10 years old. 10! And now, he suddenly wants to play the family man. The audacity, man, the sheer audacity. Relevant comments. Hi, genius. I suspect that once your stepmother learns what your father has said, she will convince him to change his mind. I thought so, 98. The stepmother might actually be a good last resort strategy here. If you try the letter writing or having a friend's parent / a teacher talk to your father and he doesn't change his mind, then you've got nothing to lose in trying to enlist your stepmother to convince him. For her own selfish reasons, it sounds like she would agree you should go back to this school, and she's probably the person most likely to influence your father. OP's reply: oh God, I really hope so. I honestly love the stepmother's strategy here because it's so perfectly cynical. It's not that she suddenly cares about this girl, because she doesn't, but she has her own interests to protect. Sometimes in real life, your best ally isn't the person who loves you, it's someone whose goals happen to align with yours. After all, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's a harsh reality, but you have to play the cards that you're dealt. SPDTLA. You need to be honest with him. He'll be shocked and deny it, but if you're honest, he'll understand. You need to tell him you heard when you were 10 the reason you were shipped to the boarding school is so that his family could start afresh. At the time, you resented it, being displaced, but you found what you were missing at home: acceptance. You are now thriving at school with friends who are willing and wanting to have you over for Thanksgiving. You don't feel the same at his house. You feel like an intruder, not a true member of the family. Even your brother and sister admitted that your stepmother instructed them to treat you this way. Then you drop the truth bombshell. You will always resent him for picking his new family over you, but you will resent him even more if he displaces you from the only place where you felt welcome. This conversation will not be easy, so feel free to write it as a letter instead. You are 15. You don't get to call the shots, but you're old enough to demand your opinions be heard. Your father is an absentee parent. He needs to learn the truth. OP's reply: I really like the idea of writing a letter. I'm going to clear my head and get started on writing it so I can deliver it to him as soon as possible. I really appreciate this feedback. Thanks. When asked if the reason father wants OP closer to home at a local school is for financial reasons, I'm not sure. It doesn't appear as if there are any money problems. I know that my tuition is very expensive, but based off the family's lifestyle, it seems like nothing. I don't know if I'm being naive with this assumption though. I don't want to be too detailed for the sake of anonymity, but I know he works in a field and for a company that makes what a lot of people consider problematic amounts of money. I don't know if anything has changed for him. It's just never a thing he's discussed with me, and I've never asked him about his money. Update 1. Posted same day, same post. Update. I've been silent since the first few responses because I wanted to process all the suggestions coming my way. First, thank you so much for your concern and kindness. It really helped me sit down and think more calmly about this situation. Second, I decided to write an email to my father in which I apologized for my outburst, expressed my understanding that we should develop a better relationship and my want for one as well. I don't know if I really want this, to be honest, but based on feedback, it seemed smart to include this. And my belief that pulling me out of my school would not result in that goal. I offered alternatives, like FaceTiming regularly, and more consistent visits during the holidays, like Thanksgiving. I also suggested that maybe we should do something together during this holiday so that we could talk and catch up. We used to hike a lot together when I was a kid, and I suggested that we go on one together, like this weekend. I also explained that I feel like I've been a responsible and productive student at the boarding school, pointing out that I head the diversity club, have provided peer tutoring each year since 8th grade, and have maintained a good GPA, and that disrupting my schooling might be counterproductive. I explained that my outburst was due to these details rather than my not wanting to be closer to him. I closed out saying that I know what's best for me, I hope this is true and I'll choose to believe it, and I want to work with him to make that happen. So now, I'm waiting for his reply. I'm pretty anxious because I honestly don't know how he'll reply. I'm taking advice given to me here though, and trying to make plans in my mind for any response. I haven't told any of my friends yet, because I know they'll tell their parents, who may contact him, and I can't be sure how he'll react to that. If he refuses after my email, maybe I'll try and have an adult intervene. I'm still thinking it through. Anyway, thank you again, guys. It's nice to know there are nice people all over. Okay, I have to say this. For a 15-year-old, this email she wrote is more emotionally intelligent than most adults I know. She apologized, she offered alternatives, she made a case for herself without tearing him down. That is a remarkable amount of self-control for someone who is justifiably furious. Genuinely impressive stuff. Update 2, posted same day, same post. Update 2, he responded. Not that into, when we spoke, I told you I had made my decision. That stance has not changed, and I am disappointed that you have chosen to ignore my words. Do not forget that you are still a child under my care, despite what you may feel. One day you will see the wisdom in this and be thankful. I am currently on my way out to business and will be back on Saturday. Until I return, and I am able to speak in person, I do not want to hear or read another word about this issue. I want to contact my headmaster and dorm parent. I have good relationships with them, but now I really feel if they contact him, that will be the end of it. I think I fucked this up. I shouldn't have sent that email. I should have waited. I don't know, my friend's parents are all pretty influential, well known in my dad and stepmom's social circle, and I'm worried it will humiliate my dad/stepmom if they find out about this issue or try to intervene. I feel so paralyzed. Ugh. Do not forget that you are still a child under my care. Sir, you sent her away at 10 years old so that you and your wife could start afresh. You forfeited the right to pull the "you're still a child under my care" card the moment you outsourced her childhood to a boarding school. That response, that's not a father talking. That's somebody who got embarrassed and doubled down. Update 3. Posted next day, August the 18th, 2017. Same post. Update 3. I'm going back to school. A lot has happened in a short period of time. I don't think I dealt with my father's email in the smartest way, but it worked. Advice telling me to speak with my stepmom really stuck with me, and I felt so desperate that I spoke to my stepmom about the situation. It became very obvious very quickly that she had no clue that my father wanted this. She immediately left the room after I explained the situation. I could hear her arguing with him, saying it was a deal breaker and that she wouldn't have it. He called me soon after she hung up and sounded so very angry. He said it was clear I had made up my mind and didn't want to be part of the family. He said that he wanted time to let my stepmother know and wishes I had trusted him. I didn't even know how to start explaining why I feel his view of my feelings are so wrong before he told me that since I didn't even want to try working with him, he's sending me back. He ended the call saying, "I hope you can deal with the consequences of your choices." I'm angry at him because I feel like so much of this is miscommunication on his part, but I'm happy more than anything because I get to go back. Thank God. I'm going to lay low, be as nice to everyone as possible, and try to ride this out until school starts, which is soon. I'm so relieved. Final comments. Pomguo. Update 3 is fucking glorious. He throws you away like garbage, tries to tear you away from your friends you made as a coping mechanism after his abandonment. Then, when you suggest a reasonable compromise to meet his need for affection without hurting you, he tells you that your feelings don't matter, and he has the gall to act like you should have kept his secret from his wife. Out of what loyalty? Why would he think you'd have any reason to help him destroy everything happy in your life? What a self-absorbed fucking moron. I hope you email him this comment of mine and some choice others from this thread. Don't, actually. That asshole needs a slap in the face with some perspective. I'm a grown-ass adult, and I don't see how on earth you'd thank him later for what he tried to do. Deleted. Just saw update 3. Congrats. I'm glad this worked out. The things you know need to be shared someday, though. The asshole needs to know that you know he's full of shit. Maybe wait until he doesn't have any control over your life, though. Comment 1. I hope you can deal with the consequences of your choices. The irony! Holy shit! I hope OP hasn't spoken to her dad in years and is generally living her best life. It sounds like she was a remarkably well-adjusted kid considering what she was put through. Comment 2. I wonder who he was getting pressure from to keep OP home. Clearly wasn't his deep paternal love for her. She should be 23 now. I hope she never speaks to him again and is off living her best life. Comment 3. My immediate thought was, she's old enough to be the nanny now. Dad wanted time to present that to stepmother and win her over with cheaper school expenses and free babysitter. Okay, that last comment about the nanny and free babysitter, oh my god, that would explain so much, wouldn't it? Because let's be real, why would a father who never pushed back on 4 Thanksgivings spent at other people's houses suddenly care so deeply about family bonding in her final 2 years of high school? Something shifted. And I think that commenter might have just nailed exactly what it was. That is genuinely bleak. Poor kid. Alright, moving on. And this next one also involves a dad. A very different kind of dad, but honestly, OP is you tall month 9107. And the tagline is, am I the asshole for threatening my father to kick him out with his family? I'm 25M, not from the US. Not looking to get into legalities, I know where I stand on that. Some context. My father married his now wife when I was 15. She was really pushy with me because the relationship with her own daughter was almost non-existent. My father did nothing, and I ended up moving with my grandpa, father's father, a few months later. Grandpa passed away suddenly when I was 17, and I inherited all his properties. Instead of moving back with them, they moved with me to Grandpa's house. I left when I was 18 to go to college, and I go back home a few times a year. I let them stay there, rent-free, as long as they don't touch my room and Grandpa's office. The house has 4 rooms. Now, I got a call from him telling me I needed to clean my room because they planned to turn it into a nursery room. Apparently, my father's wife got in touch with his daughter because she is pregnant and doesn't have a place to stay. I denied his request and reminded him from who is the house they are staying and better not touch the rooms unless they want me to kick them out. I told him there is an empty room, she can stay there, but he claims it's too small for both of them. I said that if they have a problem, they can go back to his own place. There, she can take my room. I don't know if he still has the house. I think I've been more than reasonable, but my uncle, father's brother, who doesn't have the best relationship with my father, called me to say, think about it and not kick them out. So, I wonder, am I the asshole? Verdict, not the asshole. Update, September 26, 2022, 3 days later. The day I wrote the original post, I called Mrs. Lawyer to accompany me to the house to deal with this in a civil manner. Well, Saturday we went early in the morning with the paperwork. Once we arrived, I tried to open the door, and I got the pleasant surprise that my father had changed the locks. Big mistake. We went through the door, and he told me that until I changed my mind, he wasn't going to let me in. I told him that I wasn't planning to kick them out, and I was there to solve this the right way, but if he wasn't going to let me in, I was going to do it my way. He didn't let me in. On my way to the police station, my uncle called me and said that my father called him in order to make me change my mind, but he wasn't going to do it, and will support whatever I decided. In the police station, Mrs. Lawyer explained the situation to them, and they came with us so I could evict them without issues. Once there, the police spoke to them and told them they had to let me in and get their things out as soon as possible. I hired a moving truck for them. My father tried to fight, saying that he sold his house and doesn't have a place to go, and he also claimed that he was the rightful owner, but the dimwit doesn't have any paperwork to prove it. In a last attempt, he brought up the fact that my stepsister is pregnant, but unfortunately for them, she is in the early stages, and doesn't matter either way. After their circus was over, the removal of their things was quick. Most of the things in the house are mine, except for the things they have in their room and my stepsister stuff. I'm currently in the house and plan to stay here the next few days. I have changed the locks and I'm installing security cameras. I talked to my girlfriend about moving here and she's more than happy to do so. I'm going to talk to my boss about the possibility to work from home, but it's not a real problem if I can't. Without having to worry about the house, figuring out the rest is easy. That's pretty much it. I think I covered everything. Thank you for taking your time with this mess I used to call family. Okay, so his dad sold his own house, moved into his son's inherited property, rent-free, and then had the nerve to change the locks on a house he doesn't own. And then he tried to claim he was the rightful owner with zero paperwork. I genuinely cannot believe the confidence, the absolute weaponized confidence of this man. Unreal. New updates. My father and his newfound entitlement. November 6, 2022, 6 weeks after the last post. My girlfriend found this space and asked me to share our last encounters with my father, so here it goes. We hadn't heard from him until a few days ago when he showed up at the house. I wasn't there, but girlfriend was. My girlfriend told me that my father was there to tell us since we are now living in the house, we have to host them for the Christmas holidays. Not only that, he gave her a list of the food they wanted and the gifts they expected to receive. My girlfriend told him to go away before she called the police. I again thought it was over, but I was wrong again. Yesterday we received another visit from him. Apparently, he called my mother to invite her to spend the holidays with us. She blew him off and told him she will take us, girlfriend and I, to Europe for New Year's Eve. He had the balls to demand she take them too. My mother just hung up. Mind you, this was the first time they had spoken after divorcing 16 years ago. He came to the house to demand I convince my mother to take them too, or that we pay for them to go with us. At this point, his attitude stopped being disappointing and turned comical. My girlfriend and I just laughed at him. We laughed so hard that we didn't notice when he left. I can say that we didn't have the best relationship, but he wasn't entitled. I mean, it was already clear why my grandfather, his father, was completely disappointed in him, but it seems that he wanted to take it to another, new level. I don't know if he will stop, but I hope he does for the rest of the year. Edit. I have a security system, there are cameras everywhere, I know if he's there. I have other properties, my tenants and people close to my girlfriend and me, even my neighbours know what to do if my father approaches them in my name. I doubt he will try to break in when we're not there. When I evicted them, my lawyer and the police were more than clear he could face serious problems if he tries to enter the house or any other of my properties. Unfortunately, in my country, any kind of restraining order is pretty much useless. It is more helpful to call the police right then and there, and he knows I have no problem calling them. He showed up with a list of food and gifts that he expected to receive at his son's house that he got evicted from. Look, at some point this stops being entitlement and just becomes performance art. He called the son's mother, his ex-wife, to invite himself to Europe. That is the most unhinged sentence I've read this week. Relevant comments. When asked if his father is just broken, I agree that he is broken, but I can say that he is by his own hand and not by pressure of any kind. He knows what he is doing. I was basically raised by my grandparents, his parents, and they didn't raise me any different than him or my uncle, who was another case. It baffles me that they turned this way. My grandparents raised us to be decent people, they decided not to be. It is so bad that my grandparents passed away without speaking to any of them. I grew up watching him make one mistake after another, no ownership or attempt to be better. My grandparents tried to help him, but he refused, and said that he was living his life the way he wanted. How can you help someone when he thinks he's right? My grandfather used to say that my father is weak, and I agreed, because I have no argument to say otherwise. I never expected to get anything from my grandparents. I'm grateful for what they left me, and I still would be if they left me with nothing, because they did more than what they should have. I already knew that I will not get anything from my father, financially or emotionally. The same with my mother. Our relationships are superficial. It has been like this since I was a kid. But I won't worry if she ever stops and leaves me nothing. It is her right, the same with my father. In the end, I take what I'm given, and I can agree with you that I'm also entitled. A little family mess and my father strikes again, but now he got more than he asked for. January 24th, 2023, 2.5 months after the last post. Some have messaged me for an update, so this post can be considered one. After the last incident with my father, everything was going well until I received a call from my uncle, father's brother, on December the 28th. My uncle called me to tell me that he's leaving the state and is selling his house. He asked me if I was interested in the house because he was pretty desperate to leave. He didn't tell me the reason why he was leaving, and I didn't care. What matters to me is he was desperate, and this was the opportunity to fulfill my grandpa's wish. Before I continue, I have to give you some context. My uncle's house was my grandfather's childhood home. My grandpa gave it to him, but later regretted it. He left me the task of recovering it and, if I succeeded, to give it to my cousin Marie, my uncle's daughter from his first marriage. He never recognized her, and that is one of the many reasons of my grandpa's regret. My uncle doesn't know I have contact with his daughter or that I know everything that happened in the past. If he did, he wouldn't sell me the house. Yes, he is that petty. So I decided to use the family card and my uncle's desperation to get the house cheap. I know more or less the value of the house, so I made him an offer, way below the real value, but that I was going to pay him in 3 installments. My uncle declined because it was too low, because he is not coming back. What he really meant is that he is not going to contact me again. I told him that if he could wait until my return, January 3rd, I could pay him the same amount in one go, but I would also take care of the legal fees and his moving expenses. Meanwhile, he just needed to pack his things, have his paperwork ready, and everything would be done that day. Surprisingly, he immediately agreed. We returned and I could buy the house without problems, and my uncle left the same day. The next day I called my cousin to tell her to come as soon as she can to my country. She lives in Europe, because there is one more thing that my grandparents left to her. She came a few days ago and I gave her the house and the rest of the money. She had to stay a few days to deal with paperwork, and in those days, who decided to appear again? Yes, my father. Unbeknownst to me, my uncle had another buyer, and that person was my father. My father asked my uncle to wait a few days so he could gather more money. When he got it, he called my uncle, but he already sold the house. My uncle, in order to avoid dealing with my father, told him that I bought the house. My father, knowing that he can no longer approach my house, he decided to go to my new one. But he was going to receive a surprise. He knocked and demanded that I give it to him, but no one is there for the moment, so he decided to break in. Yes, he did. We saw everything through the doorbell camera. My cousin doesn't speak our language, so I was the one who called the police in her name. Thanks to the area where the house is, and the fact that my cousin is a foreigner, the police took action faster than previous times. It is a pity that I don't have a photo of my father's face when he discovered that the house wasn't mine. It was glorious. My cousin, with my lawyer's help, and mine, pressed charges, and combined with my father's previous actions, he will spend a few months in jail. Thanks to a few people, I was able to find out why my uncle was desperate to leave. He pissed off his wife's family, like really bad. I sent him a text telling him that if he likes ratting me out to my father, I can do the same with his wife's family, so he better not come back unless he wants to play stupid games. He blocked me after that, lol. He already told me he wasn't coming back, but I better make sure he doesn't. In the end, if my cousin decides to keep the house, this will benefit her, since she doesn't want to cross paths with my uncle. So yeah, the year started off with a bang. I pretty much got rid of my so-called family for what I think is forever, and can finally start building one with my girlfriend without the worry of unwanted people showing up. Relevant comments. Accomplished Key 739. What did the uncle do to upset the wife's family? OP's reply. He got drunk on Christmas and ended up fighting with his brother-in-law and his nephew, brother-in-law's son, and, if that wasn't enough, he also punched his stepdaughter, who was trying to calm him down. All this in front of his wife's entire family. Accomplished Key 739. Just curious, was he charged or arrested? Nope, which is why he was in a hurry to leave. So, Uncle, who, by the way, was OP's one ally in all of this, Turns out he punched his own stepdaughter at Christmas in front of the entire family and then fled the state. I love that OP just noted this completely matter-of-factly. That family? Yeah, that tracks. Comment 2. Wait, for reals? Because I know a guy of this origin who abandoned his family for other women and is now like a stay-at-home husband to his current wife. He basically has no contact with the abandoned folks and he's actually really missing out. Cute little kids. But oh well, he FAFO'd. What's the deal here? Comment 3. Shitty parents can raise upstanding children sometimes. Mostly due to shame and how the children do everything in their hands in not turning into their parents. My cousins from my father's side are an example of this case. Their father is a no-good leech that stole my father's share of inheritance, an unemployed man that lives with his lover. My cousins are all good, honest people that had to navigate throughout their lives having to clean up their father's mess. They have to hide how much they're doing well financially because their father might try asking for money. Once they decided to give a freezer for their mother as a Chinese New Year's gift, and he threw a tantrum in front of everyone. Their kids, us, and our grandmother, when 1 month prior, they gave him a car as a gift. Alright, so both of these stories have something in common, and I think it's worth naming. Parents who make major, life-altering decisions for their children based purely on their own comfort or convenience, and then act genuinely shocked and hurt when those children don't perform the kind of loyalty and devotion that was never modelled for them. If you've got thoughts on either of these stories, drop them down in the comments. Like and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.